Hello, good evening. This is Joy News Prime with me, Ayisha Ibrahim. Coming up in the headlines, Speaker of Parliament admits two crucial motions of the minority, requesting Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta to present to Parliament the debt restructuring program and to also investigate the National Cathedral project. Also this evening, some West African states evacuate their nationals from Tunisia after the country's leader called for a crackdown on migrants from West Africa. Plus, government says it is aggressively using technology to root out illegal fishing fleets entering Ghana's maritime space, as Fisheries Minister says her name sends shivers down the spine of Chinese operators. And in our Ghana Man series, we head to Adan to meet traditional priests who are able to fetch water with baskets. Many thanks for choosing us. The Republic of Guinea is the first amongst a number of African countries repatriating their citizens from Tunisia after the country's increasingly authoritarian leader called for a crackdown on migrants from sub-Saharan Africa. The African Union at the start of this week condemned the comments of the Tunis President Kais Saied, which it says is targeted at immigrants and goes against the foundation principles of the African Union. Already, Guinea and Ivory Coast have commenced their repatriations, with scores arriving last night. Blessed Soga is with our international desk, and he joins us with more. Blessed, exactly what statement did the president of Tunisia make?
Basically, Kais Saied is indicating that the sub-Saharan population is being used as a tool which, in his views, being used to change the demographics of the country. He believes that some traitors, as he's describing them, are filling his country with illegal immigrants from these sub-Saharan countries, dominantly black race countries, and we are beginning to change how things are done in his country. So he's indicating that, well, in spite of all of the support that he's giving during the height of the COVID-19 pandemic, these countries are betraying him by working with some external forces to have an influx of the black population in this country, and to change the fortunes and the demographics, or the demographics, as you may want to call it, of his nation. A reason for which he says that he will crack down on these individuals in his country. And the situation is beginning to raise eyebrows. Some countries are already alarmed. Guinea is the first to take an action on this. They are beginning to repatriate all of their citizens in Tunisia. Why Tunisia? Because Tunisia is the main connecting spot to Europe for many illegal immigrants, a reason for which some of these sub-Saharan African countries are beginning to take their own steps, identify their citizens, and to bring them back home. So we've seen Guinea start the process. Côte d'Ivoire, which is our bordering country, is the next to take that step, and they'll be joining Guinea in a few moments from now. We're expecting that more and more African countries will trigger that diplomatic process just to ensure that their citizens are safe. Because in the morning, for instance, there was one individual on the BBC sharing his accounts and indicating that, for instance, law enforcement agencies may not come to your aid if they find you being attacked by a relatively white individual who happens to be a citizen of Tunisia. So that's how bad the situation is getting, a reason for which the authorities in the country, in these sub-Saharan nations, are beginning to repatriate their citizens.
So which countries are repatriating so far?
As I've indicated, Guinea, the first batch arrived last night. We saw their leader, you know that they're being run by a military junta. So Mahamadou Doumbouya, who's now the head of state, the colonel himself led that process. They brought the first batch through their presidential aircraft. And so that set has arrived. They arrived last night. The belief is that they're continuing the process all throughout this week, throughout the weekend, and more nations such as Côte d'Ivoire, because they've also indicated their readiness to join that process. They are also joining SAFE. The bigger issue has got to do with Ghana, because we are equally concerned about what happens then to our citizens. You have a huge population of Ghanaians studying in Morocco. The temptation is that you may find some influx as well, moving into the likes of Tunisia and trying as much as possible to make it into Europe. So that's why we are equally triggering our process to try and reach out to the Ghanaian population out there. The last call we made got us somewhere close to Morocco. The student union there, their leadership, they've assured us that they are safe. However, they're having challenges reaching out to their colleagues in Tunisia. So that's where the challenge is. And we're waiting to see that if we can indeed reach out to them and find out how they're doing.
Blessed, we know that the African Union has expressed displeasure about this. What exactly is it saying about this?
The African Union believes that the statements by President Kais Saied goes against the foundation principles of the African Union. The African Union is to ensure solidarity amongst the African race. It comes as a surprise to them as to why the leader would now be making such comments which they believe goes against the tenets of the Union. Beyond that, they are asking the Kais Saied regime to try as much as possible to respect international law and laws governing the rights of migrants. So that's the back and forth between the African Union and Tunisia, which has a long-standing and a unique history with the African Union itself. That back and forth going on at the multilateral level as we speak. So that's what's happening.
What's our own Foreign Affairs Ministry saying? Has it spoken about the safety of our citizens yet?
No statement so far from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Regional Integration. It does not rule out the possibility that indeed our missions, and mind you, Tunisia does not have an embassy here. So they have a consulate, obviously. Our embassy may be closed in Rabat or wherever they may be, maybe trying to initiate some processes back home here to also ensure that we reach out to the population in Tunisia. Mind you, some of the individuals who may be there might be illegal immigrants. So documentation and identification processes may be a bit cumbersome. But as of now, officially, there's no comment from the Ministry for Foreign Affairs and Regional Integration. We're still making attempts to reach out to the ministry so we can see what then is being done at that level. But for now, no indication at all or whatsoever from the ministry in that regard.
Let us go on with those updates from there. Also joining us via Zoom is Dr. Mary Boatema Sentrana. She is Director for the Center for Migration Studies at the University of Ghana. Doc, I'm grateful for your time this evening. Why should countries, including Ghana, be worried about this crackdown on illegal migrants in Tunisia?
Thank you very much, and good evening to your listeners. I think, as we have all heard, we should be worried because, especially for those of us who have been making policies for governments, who have been working with African Union on protection of migrants, no matter their status, whether they are irregular, we need to protect their rights. And so for a government or a president to now ask the citizens to crack down, that's a very serious statement. And also that's why AU has come in, because AU is it has a model, it's encouraging its members to develop migration policies, and within those policies to be able to ensure that there is free movement. And as we are talking now, there are other projects that we are talking about how AU can ensure that its members allow free movement without any visa restrictions. We have the African Continental Free Trade, where we discussed tapping into different resources and different skills across borders. And so it's actually, this is a blow to us, especially those of us in the field of migration studies, to see this. But again, it's also not too surprising because we know of the history. Historically, many countries have previously done this, including Ghana. I mean, when we had the Alliance Compliance Law, and people were thinking that migrants were taking away our resources, we all remember that Gege time, these things historically have happened. But currently, contemporary, we're thinking that we have moved or we have passed that stage. And now we are thinking of migrant rights, protecting migrants wherever they are. We are even thinking of not using words, abusive words on them. But this falls within xenophobic attacks. I mean, just as we've been reading in other places, and the attacks on them, it's also not safe. And so then, as it's not surprising that countries are going in for their citizens, and Ghana, I'm very sure, will do same. And so this is something that, I mean, Tunisia has been a transit country. I mean, it was Libya, and then you know the chaos that happened in Libya. But all these Northern African countries have been transit country for migrants. And so for it to come up now, then it becomes, it's something which is there. It's just that it's been undertoned. But for the president to come out clearly, then it means that we need to take this very seriously and act
I'm
on it.
happy you mentioned that, because in 2021 alone, over 20,000 irregular migrants were arrested by Tunisian authorities. Why is North Africa usually, a go-to spot for illegal immigrants?
Yeah, so you see, when you check the routes that goes to Europe, although it's a small country, but let me just show you some of the routes. So when you talk about the northern routes, it runs from the east and Horn of Africa through Sudan and Egypt into Israel. We have the northern or the central Mediterranean routes, that goes through Libya as the main gateway country between Africa and Europe, and sometimes along the Mediterranean Sea. And so it's a transit point. From there, you could even see some lights of Europe, some part of Spain. And so it's closer in terms of the transit routes. It's the same with Morocco. And so you find a lot of West African migrants using those paths to those areas. And so that is why we have that number of people using those routes. But again, apart from the fact that it's a transit, some people also feel settled. So we have had history of West Africans settling in Libya for a long time, even in Morocco. So some have also resorted to settling in these areas. We have students, we have other businessmen and women who are also there. So the statement was not just targeting, although the feedback looks, if you read the feedbacks from the likes of African Union, is being polished this time around. They are trying to distinguish between undocumented, documented migrants. But the initial speech was not targeting these categories. It just said black migrants or migrants from sub-Saharan Africa. And that is...
What's your advice? Should Ghana join other sub-Saharan countries in repatriating their citizens, for the fear of attacks?
Well, they should. For migrant protection is key. So once the president is not ready to protect, and the president has given that speech, we need to protect, because the fundamental human right states that each person deserves freedom, each person deserves protection. And so for protection rights, for human rights' sake, we need to go for our people. That should be the first, before we put with any other thing.
But you agree with me that these immigration issues boil down to economic empowerment. What should authorities be doing to discourage perilous journeys into Europe?
Yes, so we have found that studies that we have done have shown that people are moving because they feel they don't have jobs, they don't have better opportunities, especially young people are saying that they can't farm, they can't even have access to farms to do better farming and commercial farming. And so there are those pushing factors from our country that is pushing people away. And so I think that for us as migration experts, we should get to a point where it's a choice. We know that at any level of development, people will move. Even at advanced stages of development, people will move. But people should not be moving because they are pushed out. It should be a choice. And so we need to, as a nation, we need to create opportunities. We need to ensure industrialization, create jobs for our people, so that at least, even if they are moving, they will move in a regular means. And government should also encourage bilateral agreements where people are employed, even if it is low-skilled, especially the low-skilled. When we are skilled and we are migrating, it's not a problem. But the low-skilled, we can have some bilateral agreements so that we export them regularly. And this is how some of these young people, even for some of them, just 1 year, 2 years, and getting some capital is enough for them to come back. And so these are discussions that are being tabled on different platforms for governments to take advantage of.
Professor Mary Boatsima Setrana, I'm grateful for your time. She's head of the Migration Center for Migration at the University of Ghana. Let's go to Parliament. Before Speaker of Parliament Alban Bagbin has admitted two crucial motions filed by the minority. First, the minority wants the Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta to present for approval government's debt restructuring program. The second motion wants Parliament to conduct an investigation into the National Cathedral-related controversies. Parliamentary Affairs correspondent Kweku Asante joins us with details. Kweku, first break it down for us, the details of these two motions.
So first, the one having to do with the minority's quest to have the Finance Minister put before Parliament the debt exchange program and its related matters. Only 2 weeks ago, the Minister was in Parliament to brief MPs on this subject. We know that it's been controversial. Pensioner bondholders, individual bondholders have been in town against the plan of government to do this. But ultimately, government was able to go through, they finalized the deal, and they've announced about 85% or so participation. But the minority say that this is like government borrowing. And according to Article 185, these issues must all come before Parliament for approval. And because the government did not do so, all that government is doing may not hold water in actual sense. And so they want government to come before Parliament. That has to do with the first call of the debt exchange program. Secondly, the minority say that, let me quote exactly what this motion filed says, that this Honorable House constitutes a committee to conduct an inquiry into the National Cathedral of Ghana project and all related matters and to make appropriate recommendations for the consideration of the House. This is filed by Dr. Atoforsen, Emmanuel Lama Kufibua, Kwame Gavin Sagoja, Dr. Dominic Ayine, Helena Juantoso, and Samuel Okujusa Blakwa, who's been their marksman on all this over the past few months. You know, during the censure motion hearings, one of the reasons why the minority wanted Ken Ofori-Atta out was that they said that he had unconstitutionally released funds from government chest for the construction of the National Cathedral. Already, more than 300 million Ghana cedis have been sunk into that project, which is still at the foundation level. And the minority say this is waste of state resources. But they've also been alleging, among other things, some corruption and underhand dealings. And that is why we are asking for this. So two motions, crucial. The Speaker has admitted both, and on today's order paper, they've been listed as notice of motions, and we expect that as soon as possible, they'll be listed.
Tell us, what processes are these motions expected to go through?
So as per Regulation 78, Order 78 of Parliament Standing Orders, these motions all must be put on notice, and so they've been put on the order paper for now as notices. From next week, we'll be expecting that the Business Committee of Parliament will properly schedule a date when these motions will be taken. The starting point will be that the movers of the motion will move it. That is, the persons who are moving this private member's motion, they will move it. They will also second it. It will be debated on both sides of the aisle. The minority, we expect, will speak in support of this motion. The majority side will clearly oppose this, and then it will come down to a vote. The side which wins will decide the next phase of action. So if the minority are able to get this over the line, then Parliament will constitute a committee, which will be an ad hoc committee, just like we saw in the censure motion. Members from both sides coming together. They would invite the proponents of the motion. They would invite managers of the National Cathedral, civil society, and other persons that they think are of interest in this matter. They will work around this if the motion succeeds and ultimately presents a report to Parliament for some action to be taken. It is not clear if the numbers are there for the minority. They have 137 MPs, minus one. Joe Jatikwesen is currently not a full sitting MP. And then the MPP side also have 137 plus one independent MP caucusing with them. We also know that for some time now, Sarah Adwoa-Safo has also not been coming in. So the numbers are clear. It is quite cagey, and it will be very interesting in the coming days to see how all this ends.
Definitely something we'll be monitoring and bring to our viewers every bit of it. But let's stick with Parliament, because the Speaker, Alban Bagbin, says he will take drastic measures against some committees of Parliament if they continue delaying in submitting their reports on referrals made to them. The anti-gay bill, for instance, has been in committee for more than a year, with many other similar examples. Speaking on the floor, Speaker of Parliament said the delays are unacceptable and will not be tolerated any further.
Honourable members, this is the procedure. We have referred a lot of matters to committees. even some as far back as mid-2022. We have not received any report from the committees. I keep on drawing the attention of the committees to these matters. It offends, it sins against the provisions of our standing orders. And there are actions that we can take. But we are here together as a family. And so sometimes we are very soft in handling these matters. If you have challenges with a matter referred to you, the standing orders are clear. Report back to the House, draw the House's attention to the challenges you are facing. Then the House can give you some more opportunity. But just to remain silent, you don't report over 1 year, it's not good enough. Leaders, look at the standing orders and see what we can do. As the chairman of the committee of selection, there's a lot that the committee can do. But that may be at the displeasure of members and the leadership of the House. And that is why I keep on drawing your attention. Please, a lot of reports are pending. We need them before the House. The House is the one that will take the decision. Not any caucus, not any leadership, not any group of people. It's the House. The House will either adopt or reject. So please, let's get the reports. A lot of, even private members' bills, we refer to committees, particularly the Committee on Constitutional, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs. We are not hearing anything from them. We'll be compelled to take drastic action.
Some residents in Chado in the Lankwantanan municipality are living in fear after an alleged forceful attempt to take over their lands by persons suspected to be national security operatives. Many of these people are landowners who are yet to fully develop their lands. They want government to step in and stop the menace. There's more in the following report.
Chado, a prime area in the Lankwantanan municipality. It is one of Greater Accra's highly sought-after areas. At a glance, it is lined with luxury homes. However, many of the lands are either bare or half completed, and that attracts many people. Some of the landowners say they had to fight to retain their ownership. Some persons with some power turn up there and harass landowners and sometimes succeed in taking over their lands.
We were here when a national security then came that they said we should stop work. So I asked them who said we should stop work, because up to now we don't know who is fighting us. We don't know who said the land belongs to him. You only come in the midnight to destroy what we have built. So I had a confrontation with them and said, Madam, the only thing we are asking you is take your documents and come to Blue Gate.
Jacqueline Akwe is one of such landowners that has suffered a similar fate.
I've been to La police station because since the incident happened, that's the first call. So I went there, and then I went to the property fraud. Now I'm in the Accra Regional. Oh, for the regionals, I went there. There is a CID. You can even talk to him. It's called Abu Bakar. He is the one doing the investigations about this place now. You see, what I'm afraid of is anytime I build, the person come and destroy it. And I knew very well that somebody is using his position to just intimidate or just to, I don't know how to put this word, to take possession of something that does not belong to him.
She says the wall to her house has been pulled down 6 times and her half-completed house was demolished in a recent exercise.
We were building again. They said no. The course that has come, the course is coming, that we are still doing. So they came back again. This time around, they didn't go. They parked their car at the top, telling us to stop 26 January. Done. When my sister called me that they have called her that some people there's a langas, the caretakers, they were here, and the langas attacked them middle of the night, around 11:30 their way, and that they have broken everything. They have to flee. They have to create an entrance to run because they were having some strong objects, right? Some strong objects and all those things. So one of the neighbors called the patrol team, which they came to their rescue, and he picked the man to file a complaint about the incidents that happened.
Her hired caretakers were also harassed in the process. Godwin Agboachi witnessed 2 of the illegal takeovers by the unknown men.
The first attack was just, and these people came, like they said they were land guards, but they weren't talking to anybody. They didn't say a word, they just came to break down the store, the house, and then that time, my mom and dad, everybody was inside the room before they started breaking them.
Jacqueline says not much progress has been made to apprehend the perpetrators and now lives in fear. She wants the president to intervene. For Joy News, Michael Ashali.
95 students in a junior high school at the Krowa Municipal District have benefited from the Junction Bursary Scheme. The current economic downturn has hit many families hard, leaving some struggling to make ends meet. However, amidst these challenges, some students have received much-needed bursary support to help them continue their education and achieve their academic goals. There's more in this report.
Education is crucial, but having the necessary supplies is essential for learning and academic success. Due to the economic downturn, many students struggle to achieve their dreams as a result of inadequate educational materials. As part of their corporate social responsibility, the Junction Mall management has launched the bursary scheme to support students who may not have access to necessary school supplies. The scheme provides students with stationery, school bags, shoes, among others. Joseph Danyi is the center manager.
As a company or as a retail center, we need to look out to a corporate social responsibility. And for that matter, we do a number of them. But for this community, we have decided to settle on a basic scheme for public schools that are found in the community, in the municipality that we find ourselves.
The education director of Krowa Municipal District, Justina Jaba, urged corporate organizations to emulate and support the education sector.
It is a worthy cause that all other organizations need to emulate because some students come to school and sometimes getting the necessary learning materials is quite difficult for parents to provide. So this is a very laudable opportunity and this is a very laudable cause that we will also ask that a lot of people, other organizations within the Krowa municipality will come to the education sector and then to our municipality to come and support us, especially not only for the students but also for the educational facilities that we have within the Krowa municipality.
The students were grateful for the support.
Thank you, Jashimo, for all what you have done for us. And this will go a long way to motivate me and the other students to learn more. And I pray that we'll stand out to all the levels.
The donation of stationery by Junction Mall did not only provide the students with the tools they need to succeed in school, it also encouraged and motivated them to keep working hard towards achieving their academic goals. A report by Prince Owusu Ansah read to you.
We're still live on Joy News Prime, and still to come in this bulletin, government says it is aggressively using technology to root out illegal fishing fleets entering Ghana's maritime space. As Fisheries Minister says, her name sends shivers down the spine of Chinese operators. Welcome back to Joy News Prime. To the rest of our stories, government says it is committed to ensuring an all-round electronic monitoring of fishing in the oceans as a way of dealing with unscrupulous fishing fleet operators illegally entering the nation's maritime space. Minister of Fisheries and Aquaculture Development, Mavis Hawakumsin, says the mere mention of her name sends shivers down the spine of Chinese nationals who engage in such illegal activities. She's been speaking to the BBC.
Very soon we'll come out with other laws to be able to see how best our people, a Ghanaian, will be able to get the vessel on his own.
Indeed, as you say, you've taken over this job since 2021 and you've brought in a number of measures to try and stop that. However, we had a report out as recently as January, which were detailing some of the abuses and the corruption that you talk about. And I just wonder whether it's because people are still able to circumvent some of the measures you put in.
I'm sorry to say that report is not true because I'm the minister. And since I took over office, I've been fighting these Chinese people. As we speak currently, there's no even transshipment in Ghana. The only report I had was when I took over office, I was told there was one guy. And that vessel is not even in the country because we took the matter to police.
If that's the case, and as you say, you have no record of these kind of abuses still going on, despite the fact that the Environmental Justice Foundation and human rights workers in Ghana and fishermen have been telling us to the contrary. If you don't have as much of a problem, why then do you have to bring in these measures?
I never said this problem was not there. I said it used to be there, and that is why we are putting in all these measures to correct them. And since I took over office, it's gradual. When I took office, it was there. I heard about it. And that is why I'm committed. I must be honest, and I'm not bragging. The Chinese people even are afraid when they hear my name because they know I will not spare them if anything goes wrong.
Management of Ghana Water Company Limited in the Western region has dragged 28 of its defaulting customers in the Sekondi Takoradi metropolis to various courts in the metropolis over unpaid utility bills. According to the company, individuals, government institutions, churches, and companies owe the Ghana Water Company more than 300,000 cedis, and despite persistent notice by the company, some have not made any attempt to pay the bills. Communications Director for the company in the Western and Central regions, Ayisha Ibrahim, speaking to Joy News after a court proceeding, said the company is leaving no stone unturned in collecting those debts. Nathalia Kwanzaa has more.
Communications Director for the Ghana Water Company for the Western and Central regions, Ayisha Ibrahim, explaining why the company decided to resort to the court, said the customers have defaulted payment for between 2 and 6 years and have been disconnected but have refused to pay their water bills despite strenuous efforts made, including demand notices and reminders served on them by the company to collect the arrears. The 28 customers made up of hotels, churches, government institutions, transport companies, and residential customers owe the Ghana Water Company Limited more than 327,000 Ghana cedis.
So now we have about 28 customers within the Sekondi Takoradi metropolis whom we have processed for court. So far, we have in excess of 18 customers that we have brought to court. As at yesterday, the number of people that we had brought to court, they owed about 96,000 Ghana cedis to Ghana Water Company. But fortunately, after the court, we were able to get from them about 60,000 of the amount that they were owing. And some of them have pleaded with us to give them some kind of payment plan. Somebody was so embarrassed, he was owing about 9,200 Ghana cedis. Immediately after the court heard the matter, he went and paid all the bill. He didn't want his name to come to the public domain. So this is what we are doing so that we will be able to collect all our arrears from defaulting customers. I must say that the 28 customers that we have processed for court, even though all of them have not been called before court, they owe in excess of 327,000 Ghana cedis.
Fetching water with a basket sounds like a fruitless and unintelligent thing to do. But can you believe that this is very possible? In our Ghana Man series, Kojo Yangson takes you to Adan to meet traditional priests who are able to fetch water without the water dripping.
The world turned its eyes on Ada this year as their annual Asafotufiami Festival drew tourists and visitors from across the globe. This cultural extravaganza commemorates the numerous military victories chalked up throughout history by the ancestral people of the Ada Kingdom. We are here for the first time to experience it all for ourselves. The loud rhythmic drumming and the bright red clothing, the unceremonious loud bark of the muskets and the heady mixed aroma of gunpowder and goat kebab leaves one in no doubt whatsoever that you are at a festival. One by one, the clans line up on either side of the road. Half of today's ceremony takes place on the riverbank. This is where the whole Ada township follows their traditional leaders to the waterfront to thank the gods for victory and to cleanse their bodies after the bloody battle. Crowds are so large that a whole contingent of regular and marine police are working together to control crowds by land and by water.
That's a basket. Now, that man, that priest, is going to use the basket to fetch water from the river. And the water will not spill. I don't know if you can see. All right? See, that's a basket full of water that's not spilling. All right? Now they're going to carry that basket back, and then some of the leaders are going to drink from it. But as you can see, the water is not spilling from the basket.
And this is how the Asafotufiami ceremony comes to an end. A beautiful cultural moment lovingly recreated in this quiet riverside town. It really was worth the trip. I want to see you there next year, okay?
Well, happy Ghana month. Now, over 500,000 students have been admitted into the senior high school for the 2023 academic year. This, according to government, is the highest enrollment into senior high school since the introduction of the free senior high school program in 2017. Education Minister Dr. Ayisha announced this during an award ceremony for outstanding students in last year's Basic Education Certificate examination here in Accra.
This year, we've had a record placement of over 500,000 students. See, the 830 was for 3 years. This year alone, 500,000 have found schools, and we are waiting anxiously for them to enroll in our various high schools across the country. That tells you something about what is taking place in this country. Mr. President, your vision is seeing fruition, and these young men and women have found themselves in our various high schools, technical schools, and they are studying, and their brains and talents are going to be used for the benefit of this nation, so that this nation can live through to its motto of freedom and justice. There cannot be freedom when the young men and women don't have the opportunity to receive quality education, to empower themselves and to better the laws of their families and of their nation. There cannot be no justice in this country when those who are deprived don't have the opportunity for upward mobility. So the vision of this president, Mr. President, your vision, has been to ensure that this nation will live true to its motto of freedom and justice. So today, as we celebrate all those who have done some great things and they've accomplished so much, we celebrate within the context of providing opportunity for all, irrespective of which side of town they were born, irrespective of which part of this country they come from. They come from different paths, different backgrounds, different families, and yet they are here together as one Ghana. The education initiative of this president, which the ministry champions with the support of the TVET service and Ghana Education Service, is ensuring that we create one Ghana and not two Ghanas. We are not creating Ghana for the rich and Ghana for the poor.
Time now for showbiz. Beautiful Becky is here. Hello, beautiful.
Hello to you, Ayisha.
How are you doing?
Nangode.
Auntie Fancy, good to see you.
Lafialo.
Yeah, Lafialo.
How do we say?
Yeah,
Lafialo.
That's correct. How are you doing? You say Lafialo.
Lafialo.
Doing well.
Oh, that's so nice. So we're celebrating Ghana Month, but first of all, let's talk about Trickmatic, Ayisha, because he's been making some, comments about international collaboration. So he says, for instance, somebody goes to feature somebody in Togo, it's not, accepted as international collaboration. And this attitude, he says, is very worrying.
Take it from just the black thing point to say that, oh, I'm unhappy with what he said, because we have allowed room for such a statement, and just like Kofi said, there's certain artists that you'll be amazed that they are known, like Nigerian artists that are known on the international front, but may not be as big on local Nigerian radio. And there are certain local Nigerian artists that are being played every day on local Nigerian radio that are not known on the international platform. And so it's a bag of everything. And so we have to be very careful. And this, for me, like I said, it's a learning curve for all of us, whether we're in radio, whether even as musicians ourselves, and all of that. I say that the African musician, or like the Ghanaian musician, is sad.
Well, Trickmatic there. Let's talk about Prince Bright. I caught up with him in the US.
Yes.
I just want you to know that.
US vibes, E-Vibes, US series.
Yeah. And he's been talking about a lot of things, and also how he's managed to keep Ghana in his heart, even though he's out there
outside the country.
In the US. Yeah.
Other figures. I'm into automobile sales. I'm into luxury clothing lines. I'm into luxury property sales in Ghana.
Now that you mention
Yeah, this is actually Roots Collection. Is the luxury line that's coming out this fall. Never forget where you're coming from. You see the African map behind me, and the lettering is right where Ghana, the Ghana map is supposed to be.
Right here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that comes to say, I don't forget. I
Where
am
you're coming from.
a Ghanaian first before turning American. You know, and yes. So this is Roots Collection.
Okay. How long did you start, the whole collection?
It's been about 3 years ago.
Okay.
We started very, very small. Now it's really gotten bigger because we're connecting to other, business partners to be able to move it to a bigger market.
Prince right there. Don't forget that E-Vibes, the USA series.
Inside the also Ari girls in the US. Oh my
it's
God.
still showing. But Ayisha, let me tell you about all the events that are happening this evening that you can attend. First of all, you can go to Celestial Praise 2023 with Celestine Donko. The event is set for March 6th at the Dominion Center in Awoshi. So if you find yourself in Awoshi, please join Celestine Donko. Also, for those of you in Kumasi, you can join the Abba Father concert put together by Dinah Samoa, the likes of Uncle Ato, Daughters of Glorious Jesus, and a host of other musicians will be there to perform for you. And also, we're not leaving Volta Region out because the Independence concert is happening with Miss V and Efia. So if you're somewhere inside the Volta region, locate Miss V on the 4th of this month, which is March, 8 p.m. sharp. They will thrill you. I love Miss V and Efia. Also, obviously, on Joy News and on Joy Prime, tomorrow, E-Vibes, the second part of Prince's interview will be airing on 8 a.m. right before News File.
The award-winning News
File.
Okay.
And then when you go to Joy Prime, it's 4:30 p.m.
Okay.
Same day, Saturday. It repeats on the channel, so stick to the channel.
I won't miss that for anything.
Ayisha, so obviously we're in Ghana month. We want to find out how patriotic you are. First of all, this is a beautiful woman that has been singing the national anthem. Ayisha, you continue.
God bless the homeland Ghana and make our nation grace and song. Go to the fair forever.
The cost of freedom and of right. Fill our hearts with true humility. Make us cherish fearless honesty. Are we honest? And help us to resist oppressors' rule with all our will and might forevermore. Okay, remember to brush your teeth. So everyone, remember to brush your teeth before you go to bed this evening, and brush tomorrow morning when you wake up. Okay. Brush your teeth with either Pepsodent Cavity Fighter, Pepsodent Charcoal, Pepsodent Hairball, or Pepsodent Triple Protection, because with Pepsodent, every smile
matters. Those beautiful teeth.
So what was that? The song, the national anthem, you were going off key.
I wasn't going off key. I was doing my own rendition. I mean, is that wrong?
No, it's not. I'm proud of you.
Thanks for bringing us show.